Ahead on Fishing Australia, we check in on the New South Wales South Coast. As we've all seen, the southeast corner of Australia and further afield was absolutely hammered by some of the most catastrophic fires on record, and this was followed up by floods. So we're down here to check in with the community and Mother Nature and get an update on where they're at. We're going to hear some remarkable stories and see how the resilience and sense of spirit in Australia is truly remarkable. We're going to take some of those locals fishing, wet a line, and maybe even catch a few fish along the way. It was catastrophic and heartbreaking, the sheer scale of loss and devastation. As we saw, the New South Wales South Coast was one of several regions besieged by fires over Christmas and New Year.
I don't think we could have gone through a worse experience as a community. It was just next level, really harrowing stories from a lot of people. You know, and there's still a lot of harrowing stories, but we're starting to take those steps down the road of recovery. And it still is really tough for a lot of people. I mean, we can't gloss over the fact that there's still people living in tents and caravans, and it's going to take a very long time for the cleanup to happen. We've got small businesses that are really struggling. But, you know, people are starting to kind of let their breath out a little bit. It's almost like we've all been, you know, holding on to that. And people are just starting to feel a little bit back to normal again. We had a beautiful concert just recently over at Mackay Park, and, you know, everybody let their hair down and had a little bit of fun, including myself. And, you know, so there's some good things happening, but one of the best ways that people can really support us and help us down here is by coming back and visiting us. And, you know, there's a bit of a saying that we've sort of coined lately, unfortunately we had to. We'd like people to come back with a heart full of love, an empty esky and a wallet full of cash.
As one of the main towns in the eye of the storm, Batemans Bay was even more personal for me. It's a place Fishing Australia has visited many times, and I also have family and friends here. The first thing I wanted to do when I came to Batemans Bay was check in with some friends, some fishing friends and family, and to see how they're going and get them out, you know, get them away from everything that's happened and take them fishing and just free up their mind and give them a good time and show them that Mother Nature's bouncing back. And we lined up a charter with Skipper Blocker on Top Cat, which is owned by a good friend of mine, Anthony Stockman, a complete angler there. And going out on that charter, we invited Kai, one of the local fire brigade men, and also a young guy called Nate and his father Anthony. And they'd been in the thick of these fires, and we just took them out fishing. And whilst we were showing them a good time, we just heard some of their stories, and it really hit home what they'd been through. But it also showed me how strong they are as characters and how the Aussie spirit is just, you know, breathtaking at times. It gave me tears, it gave me goosebumps, but it also gave me this overwhelming sense that everything's going to be all right. She's, you know, it's going good. Let's get back out there amongst it and do the things we love. We've steamed out about half an hour from the marina. We're in 35 metres of water, and Kai, I tell you what, it's nice to be out here, isn't it?
Yep, sure beats being at work today, yes.
Yeah, and it just really frees your mind up from everything that's happened, hasn't it? And
it does, yeah.
Just a great getaway in general, eh?
That's right. Yeah, everything's been pretty hectic over the last few months. You know, you have the event on the day or the week of it. And then, yeah, the recovery, you know, it's still a long road. Yeah, for the wider community, definitely. Yeah, we'll talk more about that, but while we're
rebuilding process goes on. It's just fantastic to get out here and enjoy this, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
All right, bombs away, mate.
Righto.
Let's see what we catch.
Thank you.
The lines were in, and it was over to Kai, Nate, and his dad Anthony. And that's next on Fishing Australia. I'm on the New South Wales south coast, just off Batemans Bay. With me is local firefighter Kai and a couple of keen fishers, Nate and his dad Anthony. All three were in Batemans Bay when the fires swept through, and today we're catching up to relax a bit and reflect. 10-year-old Nate was with his father and family when they fled to nearby Malua Bay to escape the inferno that was raging all around.
It was terrifying, mate. I've never been through anything like it in my life. Hope to never go through it ever again. But just having to go down the beach, and Nate and I were in knee-deep water. Nate hanging onto my side, and he was actually screaming, "We're going to die, we're going to die." And it was terrifying, it was.
Now this is all happening in Malua Bay, so this region is one of the worst hit. Nate, tell us, pretty scary.
It was scary. I just didn't know really what to do. Just terrified me.
It has been a mix of emotions, up and downs. From standing on the beach with my son, my daughter and my wife, and thousands of other people down there. Dogs, what else do you have there? Ducks, horses, chickens, everyone, cats. And just the fears in people's eyes. And I mean, you're looking at the kids and they're screaming, and then that's making other people scream. And it was a horrific experience. And trying to get back to normality has been tough, especially these kids. Every time bushfire's mentioned, he starts to panic again, thinks it's coming back. And then we go from bushfires to floods. And then, it's just been one thing after another for us down here. It's been really tough. And trying to be tough in front of the kids as well, to help them along and not see that you're struggling. And that's been very hard.
What's been working for you guys moving forward? What's helping you guys cope with
Fishing.
this?
Fishing, yeah. And
Yeah?
any chance we get out there and try and have a fish. And Nate and I just sit out there, we put our music on, try and catch some fish. If we come home with nothing, we don't care. We still have a good day, we love it. And I think more people need to get their kids out and get them fishing, because it's just something that's fun, you can do together. There's no stress, and you forget all about what's happening on the bloody land, so it's good.
Anthony and Nate's story is not uncommon around here. People are still coming to terms with a traumatic offence and the impact of having to rebuild their lives, homes and community. Out on the water, firefighter Kai was enjoying the chance to unwind. Kai spent days on the front line, alongside so many other fireys, emergency personnel and civilians who were tireless in their desperate efforts to protect life and property. The peak of these fires, what was the worst of it that you saw, mate?
The worst of it, so much. You're dealing with the fire impacting you directly in front of you, watching, you're doing your best to save properties, people's homes, watching that first house that we were stationed at start to catch on fire, and we had to leave in a hurry. That's one thing that'll stay in my mind for a long time. But even after the fact, looking back, the fear in people's eyes, just the sheer panic, the volume of people around town. But yeah, there was a time we'd sort of finished at Surf Beach, and we were actually heading back down south towards Browlee and Tomican. Basically went straight through the fire front. Our truck had blown an airline, so it was basically struggling to go along. We were in limp mode. And then down Duns Creek Road, we actually had power lines come down across the truck. They hit the exhaust pipe, I think, and actually flicked off. Otherwise, it could have been a different situation. Probably about a minute after, there was just we all burst out laughing. It was just nervous laughter because it was like, yeah, whoa, that was close. Even looking at the truck now, all the decals have bubbled up. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I guess you don't really have time to think about death. Your training kicks in. It's a reflection of the people you're with. I was a retained firefighter. I was with the permanent firefighters who all have, 15, 20 years of experience, and some of them were, probably nervous to say the least. So yeah, definitely fear was sitting in the back of your mind, but it's that flight or fight notion, I guess. You put the wet stuff on hot stuff, and you just try not to think about that element of it. You want to help people, you want to save people, you want to get home to your family.
It's hard to imagine on a beautiful day like today, but the peak of the fires, the height of the flames is taller than these trees. That beautiful sun, completely blacked out by smoke. The local community of dozens, grandmas, kids, parents, retreating into the water. The roar of the flames is deafening and the heat is that intense that the marine growth along the water's edge is burning and people are retreating further into the water. But despite all this, the sense of Australian spirit and resilience is proving to be remarkably strong. Mother Nature, she's bouncing back. This is about rebirth, rejuvenation, and visitation. Kai is a Batemans Bay local who loves his fishing and has joined me and a few mates for a morning out on the water. I think you got a nice snapper, mate. All right. Well, your job is done, mate. Definitely a keeper, mate. I'll just get rid of that net. There we go. A beautiful South Coast snapper, mate. You'd pretty much get them every time. A bit smaller, sometimes a few bigger, but that is a fantastic table fish.
Good start to the day.
Is that a nice fish for you, mate?
Definitely, yeah. That'd have to be one of my biggest snappers so far.
Oh. Kai is also one of the many fireys who spent endless hours and days battling the New Year's Eve infernos.
In that situation on New Year's Eve, there was no backing down. There were times that you were just completely exhausted, and I don't know where you find it, but it's there somewhere. I think most people have got it. You just dig deep. As I said before, it's a reflection. You're with other guys. You're a team. If someone's looking a bit flat, it's like, yeah, get some water into you, perk up. And you just keep going. I think it was like 20 odd hours. I was on a fire truck on New Year's Eve. There was people that were going for days. It was also sustained, like we had the major impact of fire on New Year's Eve and probably the days after, but people living out on the fringes of town, that threat came with, depending on which way the wind swung around. So I think mentally for those people being on edge for probably over a month, that's got to be hard, because just not knowing. It's one thing to have the fire pass through and everything's burnt and you can sort of, righto, we'll get over that phase and move on to the next one, but it danced around out on these ridges for weeks.
Those ridges above the Clyde River form the backdrop for my next catch-up. I've known Ray and Mark forever, and like many of their friends and neighbours, they were hit hard by the fires. This is known as the Table of Truth down at the Orchard Shed here on Ray Street. I'm not sure about having three fishermen sitting here.
Friday, the Table of Truth.
But seriously though, it's absolutely beautiful down here, isn't it?
It's absolutely, yep.
Yeah,
look at a spot.
Yeah.
This is it.
She's bouncing back already, but it's a fun.
in the crew.
Yeah.
Like the areas now, you've got your green, you've got your nice green areas, and you can see where your trees are starting to come back, and that's Mother Nature's beautiful point for you. It's seen its worst points, and it's now getting into its regrowth part and being reborn. And it's going to take time, but over the time, it's going to take that bit of patience as well.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about it, and these things will come back, and they always do. It's how we look at
It's just 2 months late already. I mean, it was quite literally Armageddon down here. You couldn't see across the river. Bob, who owns the houseboats, was moving his houseboats to try and save them. Tell me some of your stories about how bad it got first, Ray.
Well,
You lost your house, Ray. Tell us.
Yeah, it was early mornings, so most of the people at work, and sort of then we noticed of the community that was more south than anything else were starting to get that panic stations by 8 o'clock in the morning. So we sort of got out of the area by about 8:40ish, and I got home, and then that thing started to change, and you lose your communications, you're losing points of those important things.
Yeah.
So you knew things were getting close, and how the escarpment at the back of my area was the biggest point of visual, because the levels of smoke that come through gave you a guideline of how close it was, and the popping sounds in the distance was your gas canisters that were getting closer and closer. The sounds of popping, getting louder was the speed of that fire.
Seeing that animal, the ferocity of that fire, you lost your house, but in that moment, you probably feeling more lucky to be alive.
More of the fact that your adrenaline and everything was pumping, because there was a point where you thought you could have done everything that you could to be safe. But not with the ferocity of how it was at the time. So it was only a 40-minute sort of window, but it was that, and it felt 2 hours. And how it affected houses in between. So you see one house opened up like a flower.
The scars upon the landscape are healing, and gradually, so is the community. When we come back, we check out the river and what's on the horizon. I'm in Batemans Bay on the New South Wales south coast, dropping by for a quick spot of fishing and to catch up with some friends to see how they and the people around here are doing after the devastating bushfires. Ray and Mark joined me on the banks of the Clyde River to wet a line and reflect on the events of that day. It was also an opportunity to look forward toward what's now needed to aid the recovery process.
3 months on, everyone's struggling a bit, morale, strange things are happening, there's people coping in different ways, there's a lot of bad stuff happening, and, with business and, Canberra people everywhere, Sydney, everyone's trying to support us down here, and, towns, we're still here, business is still here.
You got people coming down, on Easter and the long weekends, and how can people from afar, help with that morale,
They're doing it. Look, we just had a Canberra long weekend, and what was it, 2-hour traffic jam to get out of town. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
I think for the coast, but if that's spread for the whole lot of the coastline,
that'd be
been affected enough.
That's what we need.
Well, and how can we do that? I mean, I know. I mean, you have got some of the best seafood and local produce in the world. To me, autumn and winter's a secret time to sneak down here. You don't have the crowds. Tell me about some of the stuff you guys offer. I mean, it is.
Well, the coast's got the best. We've got the best seafood. We got, you got mussels, local oysters, everyone. You don't need to come down and bring anything down here.
Yeah.
They've got it, and people are doing that. They're coming down. They want to help us. They're trying.
Yeah, and they'll bring down their empty eskies. They'll have a great weekend. And we've seen that. We've seen that over many times. And I think a lot of people, with the way the older coastal people are seen, is a lot of spine and a lot of backbone.
Yeah.
So what needs to happen, guys?
Well, the next 6 months we're going to have, the best weather, best time. It's a great time to visit us down here.
Exactly right.
Everything's green.
Yeah.
Well, at that time of the year, between our late autumn into winter, coming into spring, it's just the transitional changes that you get in there. And, each different pocket of this coastline holds that little secret.
Great fishing.
Nothing changes.
Yeah.
So when you see it, we see this area over here, and we see this brown, and we see the little bits of green and everything coming back through. The whole coastline's the same as that, but it comes back, and it creates stronger people. It creates better growth. And over maybe 12 months, in time that will get better, and that's what needs to be shown. And more people we get down here to see that, to see those things through that time of the year, it's better. They've probably seen that, but they'll see when they come down. They'll see how the progression of how nature comes back from a destruction fire like that to be here now.
Best it is.
The cooler months really are a great time to visit, and the fishing is just as good as any other time of year.
The most beautiful time of the year is in winter. The days are just really crystal clear, the beaches are quiet and still and there's no one around. The fishing is fantastic, the oysters are on point and magnificent, the seafood's rolling in, there's cheeses and beautiful things that are being produced all up and down the coast, and you know what, you don't have to share it with a whole lot of people. So, you know, that's our little bit of a secret.
And even if you're not looking for an angling adventure, there's many other things to see and do. To discover more, check out eurobadella.com.au.